Welcome to the Damascus Road podcast. On the road to Damascus, Paul had a radical encounter with Jesus and his life was changed forever. That is what we hope and pray for here. Now, on to this week's episode.
It hardly seems possible it has now been 5 years, half a decade since the world started shutting down for the pandemic. In some ways, that seems like a lifetime ago to me, but in most ways, it seems like it was just yesterday. And that's probably because I'm old and the days just fly by now. Whether in big or small ways, the pandemic was tough for everyone. It was a huge bummer when concerts and events were canceled or indefinitely postponed. It was weird and tough having to cancel trips and not being able to travel to see family. And it was weird and challenging having to go remote for school or work or church. And then there were those who had to watch their family and friends go into the hospital and fight for their lives. The pandemic became really real to me when we found out a really good friend of ours, Erica's maid of honor in our wedding, was in the hospital with COVID and on a ventilator early on. Thankfully, Gina was able to pull through, but that was not the case for so many who lost their battle and were never able to come home. At first, lockdown seemed like something that would last like maybe a month or two, and then we would all be fine, right? But the longer it went on, it seemed like it would never end. Would we forever be stuck in our homes with our families, our sourdough starters, craft projects, Netflix queues, and new COVID pets? Maybe. I know for me, by the end of that first summer, it was all starting to feel like quite the slog. Just going to work and coming home, no gym, no going out to eat, no spending hours perusing record stores. Couldn't do any of it. By then, even catching up on a perpetually growing list of shows to binge was starting to lose its luster. But then something happened. It may not have been much, but there was a little crack in the darkness, a little light starting to shine through, a little hope, a little optimism. Maybe the first sign that things would eventually be okay. No, I am not talking about the development of the vaccine, though that was a scientific marvel. I am talking, of course, about the premiere of Ted Lasso. Probably not a surprise that this is what I was leading up to, as his picture has been everywhere this morning, and I am dressed like him. Don't worry, the mustache is not here to stay. The wife would not allow that. But I still want you to appreciate my commitment here. I mean, I didn't see Megan dressed like Spider-Gwen a few weeks ago. Yeah, maybe her outfit was like Spider-Gwen inspired, but she didn't like shave half of the side of her head for like that trendy alternative cut. I grew a mustache. Come on, people. Premiering August 14th, 2020 on Apple TV Plus, right in the middle of the pandemic, Ted Lasso almost immediately became a phenomenon. What initially seemed like a fun variation on the fish out of water story archetype, American football coach gets hired to coach an English soccer team, quickly turned into a lot more. And something about this show struck a chord with so many. Perhaps it was like I was saying, sometimes timing is just everything. A show with a strong emphasis on positivity and optimism was definitely something people were craving about 6 months into the pandemic. It was definitely a breath of fresh air at a time when we really needed it. But sometimes art, a book, a movie, TV show, an album comes along and just strikes a chord in a very unique way. It pulls at the strings of our deepest longings. It speaks to our hearts and souls. It seems to call out to us and make us ask bigger questions about ourselves and our world. As we have seen over the past few weeks, this is what our whole Pop Culture Jesus series is about. These things that speak to us are the fingerprints of God, creating touchstones in our culture, pointing us back to Him. Ted Lasso is no different. While not a Christian show or even created with the intention to convey spiritual themes, God is still in the details. John Apiczonik of the Gospel Coalition wrote that there is something unusually Christian about this TV series. While on some levels it is far from a Christian show, as you binge your way through Ted Lasso, you will warm to the ridiculously flawed characters, you will be surprised by the non-puff pastry plots, and you will be quietly astounded by the presence of something that is practically non-existent in contemporary popular culture. A characteristic found in few other characters, in hardly any shows or movies. and almost never with the degree of centrality with which it features in this show. The characteristic is the love of one's enemies, compassion in the face of hostility, kindness in the face of aggression, poise, calmness, and grace in the face of nastiness, disdain, and mockery. And that is just one aspect of a show rich in so many great themes. Over the course of 34 episodes and 3 seasons, and an upcoming 4th season just announced by Apple and Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso tackles forgiveness, hope, perseverance, growth, the power of optimism and kindness, leadership, mental health, the importance of believing in oneself and others, and the transformative impact of authentic relationships. I really wish I could cover all of these themes here today. I really wish we could sit down, binge the whole series, and talk about these themes and all of its great characters. The curmudgeonly aging football star, Roy Kent, Ted's quirky right-hand man, Coach Beard, the young diva on the team, Jamie Tart, the kit man turned coach, Nate, the ever-positive Danny Rojas, football is life! Reporter Trent Krim, the Independent. Oh, sorry, wrong picture. Here you go. There's just so much good stuff and good characters that I could go on and on and on, but we'd end up being here for days. So today, I'd like to focus on what I think is one of the more interesting relationships on the show. Ted and his boss, the owner of AFC Richmond Football Club, Rebecca Welton. It's a relationship that starts off a bit tenuous, but with care, persistence, and intentionality, it grows into something much more, something Christ-like. So let's dive in and see what Ted, Rebecca, and Jesus can teach us about the pursuit of others and the intentional relationships in our lives.
This is a bit of surprising news from the other side of the Atlantic. AFC Richmond announced the hiring of their new manager, one Theodore Ted Lasso. Of course, recently it was Coach Lasso leading the Division II Wichita State Shockers to their first ever national title in American football. He took the Shockers from a garbage program all the way to the promised land in his very first season as head coach. But for a lot of us, that's not how Ted Lasso found his way into our hearts, certainly not into our living rooms. For me, it'll always be Ted celebrating a moment of joy with his team in a way that you really have to see to understand. And then even when you see it, I don't necessarily know that understanding is what we're doing. Right on, Ted. Do your thing, man, and good luck with the most beautiful game. Do us proud. Go America.
So to kind of set up the story, after being a successful, albeit lower-level college football coach in Wichita, Kansas, and going viral for his enthusiastic celebratory locker room dancing, Ted is handpicked to be the next head coach, or manager, as they say in England, of the AFC Richmond Greyhounds. It is certainly a bold and brash move by his new boss, Rebecca. Ted admittedly doesn't know a thing about soccer. One might suspect that knowing something about the game you are going to coach would be a pretty big prerequisite for an owner. But here we are. Ted is her guy. So he boards a plane with Coach Beard, who's the one doing the actual deep dive into the game and how to actually coach soccer and finding all the nuances. And they head overseas. Despite the jet lag, they head right to the club's facilities to meet the staff, the team, and most importantly, their new boss. Rebecca is a strong and powerful woman. She intimidates virtually everyone around her, but not Ted. Maybe it's because he's had to deal with intense athletic directors or parents or anything over the course of his coaching career, but Ted's ever-optimistic outlook does not allow any intimidation to sneak in during their first meeting.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Ted Lasso, your new coach. You must be Miss Welton.
Oh, please, call me Rebecca. Please, take a seat.
Okay.
Can I get you something to drink?
Yes, please. Didn't get much sleep on the plane, so anything you got a little boost of caffeine should do the trick.
How do you take your tea?
Well, usually I take it right back to the counter if someone's made a horrible mistake. When in Rome, right? Yeah. Look at that. Okay.
Well?
You know, I always figured that tea was just going to taste like hot brown water. And you know what? I was right. It's horrible. No, thank you.
Welcome to England.
Yeah, get used to it, sucker, right?
Now, would you like a tour?
Oh, I'd love to see Abbey Road.
Of the club?
Yeah, let's start there.
So, this hall represents the club's long, albeit modest, history.
The first match was played in 1897.
During the war, our stadium was used as a makeshift hospital. Yeah, some of the locals claim they still see fallen soldiers wandering around the pitch.
Ooh, that's spooky.
Oh, do you believe in ghosts, Ted?
I do. But more importantly, I think they need to believe in themselves.
Okay. And this is a wall of our previous owners.
Okay. Well, now look at this fella up here. With the girls and the champagne and everything, he looks like a good time.
That's my ex-husband.
Well, good times aren't always a good time. I heard about all that. How are you holding up?
Yeah, hasn't been the easiest year.
Yeah.
So we'll need you to speak to the press.
Oh, yeah. No, after a couple nights good sleep, I'll be happy to do so.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you knew. They're ready for you now.
They're what?
So without further ado, the new manager of AFC Richmond, Ted Lasso.
Tired and maybe a little overwhelmed by everything, Ted is thrown right to the wolves at an introductory press conference. It goes less than ideally. He doesn't have any answers for any of the technical questions from the reporters about the game he's tasked to coach. He's surprised by when he takes a drink of water, surprised by the fact that it's sparkling water, and he spits it all over the reporter's equipment that is right in front of him. And he just understandably gets a little frustrated. As everything is unraveling for him right in front of the cameras and the reporters, Rebecca steps in to defend Ted and her hiring of him, which seems like a very honorable thing to do, until it doesn't.
Coach Lasso, Lord, you must forgive my fellow countrymen.
Somewhere over the last few years, we seem to have abandoned all sense of manners and hospitality. My, aren't you a salty bunch?
But I can't remember the last time the press room was this full. Yet here you all are. Maybe you're not such a mad notion after all. And despite the number of you here, there is not a single person in this room who has seen Richmond play more than I have.
And in all those years, under the stewardship of the previous owner, I've witnessed nothing but profound mediocrity. Am I wrong?
Well, it's a bit
Am I wrong? Now, Coach Lasso may not have a CV that you all find acceptable, but he does have one thing this club doesn't. A trophy from this millennium. So, like it or not, Richmond are changing the way we do things. And from now on, that way is the Lasso way. We look forward to seeing you all at our next match with Crystal Palace. Thank you so much.
Nice meeting y'all, and sorry for spitting on all your stuff up here.
Thank you.
I gave him 3 weeks.
Oh, boy. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Ted, don't you think about them for another second. You have a job to do, and proving them wrong has just been added to the list.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, thank you, Coach. Yeah. Oh, okay. You know, I'd love to say hi to the team if I can.
Can't keep a gaffer from his pitch.
Oh, you can say that again. I'm 0 for 2 in that sentence.
Miss Watson, I was a bit sceptical, but after hearing you speaking there, I'm excited by your choice. Coach Lasso is just what we need.
Oh, he's an absolute wanker.
I know. Pardon?
I hope he fails miserably. See, my ex-husband truly loved only one thing his entire life. This club. And Ted Lasso is going to help me burn it to the ground. I want to torture Rupert.
Uh-oh. It appears that Rebecca is not just Ted's boss, but she's kind of his nemesis. He just doesn't know it. She's hired this goofy, somewhat uncultured Yankee import under false pretenses to coach her ex-husband's team with the hope that he will fail spectacularly and drive the team into the ground. Rebecca is out for revenge, and Ted is happily naive of the whole situation. He will be collateral damage, and he has no idea. Despite all of this, he is undeterred. Despite her strong resistance to his optimism and his niceness, Ted is determined to befriend Rebecca. And on his first full day as manager, he comes up with the perfect first step. Ted's friendship comes in the form of biscuits.
Knock-a-doodle-doo.
Good morning, Coach Lasso.
Hey, look at us. A couple of worm-addicted early birds, am I right? Well, I'm glad I caught you. I brought you a little something.
Oh.
Yeah, cookies. Or, as y'all call them here, biscuits, right? Though I do not recommend you smother these in gravy.
Oh, Ted, I don't really...
Oh, come on, I'll take a looky there.
Oh, it's doing it good.
Right. Go ahead, take a nibble. That's it. Away you go.
Where did you get these?
I'm glad you like them. You know what? I'll start bringing these to you every morning. Called Biscuits with the Boss.
That really isn't necessary.
Okay, well, mark this down as the first time we disagree then. Actually, no, second time. Tea is horrible. Actually, garbage water. I don't know why y'all do that. Anywho, we can't really be, good partners unless we get to know each other, right?
Ted.
We're going to start simple. Real easy one. We're going to do first concert, best concert. You go ahead and go first. Go, right off the bat.
The Spice Girls. And, the Spice Girls.
Same answer for both? Oh, I love that. My turn. First concert. Well, I mean, come on. It was the gambler himself, Mr. Kenny Rogers.
Okay.
You got to know when to hold on.
Ted.
When to hold on. Know when to fold on. When to fold on.
Coach Lasso.
Walk away. Know when to...
Stop. Ted, I'm sorry. Biscuits with the Boss is not something that I have time for this morning. Or ever.
I hear you, boss. Loud and clear.
There we go.
Okay.
You're going to show up tomorrow with biscuits, aren't you?
Oh, come on now. I would not bet on that. I mean, unless you want to win a buttload of money.
Biscuits with the Boss. Ted starts the tradition with Rebecca by bringing her delicious biscuits in a little pink box. He comes into her office regardless of what she might be doing, gives her the biscuits, and starts peppering her with getting to know you questions. And he's trying to get them to bond. Rebecca makes it very clear that she does not have time for this at all. But Ted is explicit that this is a gift for her, and he's going to continue to show up every day, whether she likes it or not. So begins this push and pull. Ted's attempt at wooing the friendship of his team's owner, and Rebecca doing everything she can to resist and rebuff his efforts. Whether you grew up in the church or have just been hanging around DR for even just a little bit, you may have noticed that food plays a pivotal role within the life of a church community. Perhaps you grew up with church potlucks. Perhaps there was coffee and donuts available before or after church every Sunday, like the church I grew up in. And free glazed donuts just hit differently as a kid, right? We bring in pizza, Panda Express, or Raising Cane's the first couple Sundays of every semester to encourage people to stick around, to get to know some people, and to build community. We intentionally give out food to those that come to the food bank as a bridge between the actions we are called into by being followers of Jesus and our faith in him, and those that come to get food month after month. Heck, this entire series, we have been intentional about having an opportunity for people to go out to lunch after church so we can continue the conversation of faith's intersection with pop culture with each other over a meal. Sharing food and sharing a meal with another person or a group of people is an intimate experience and shows how close people can be. It can define and deepen our relationships with those around us. Ted uses food as a bridge into other people's lives, specifically Rebecca's here, and Jesus did the same. I don't think it's a stretch for me to say that Jesus appreciated a good meal, and I think he'd probably like the idea of biscuits with the boss. Gathering around food was a fundamental part of his ministry. Jesus saved a wedding reception by changing water into wine. He had Passover meals with his friends and his followers. He made it a point of going to the homes of sinners and tax collectors to share a meal. Doing this was really significant because it demonstrated value for these people and equality for everyone. Who you dined with then was a really significant social statement. So when Jesus and who he dined with was not just about building a connection, but it was about loving people deeply when the world and others did not. And he did it so much so that his detractors used it as an insult against him. We are given story after story in the Bible describing the ways Jesus gathered at the table with his disciples, his enemies, the outcasts, and the oppressed of the communities in which Jesus traveled. Even one of his biggest miracles involved food. John's telling of one of Jesus' most well-known miracles begins with Jesus being followed by a large group of people as night was beginning to fall. After this, Jesus crossed over to the far side of the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberias. A huge crowd kept following him wherever he went, because they saw his miraculous signs as he healed the sick. Then Jesus climbed a hill and sat down with his disciples around him. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration. Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, he asked, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" Dinner is coming. There are a lot of people who are going to need to eat. And Jesus wonders out loud, what are they going to do? Philip balks at Jesus, telling him that even if they worked for months, there's no way they'd have enough money to feed this massive crowd. Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "There's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that for this huge crowd?" Andrew, in a moment to me, that kind of seems like he's doing some of that there's no bad ideas in brainstorming type of brainstorming, speaks up and says he's seen this boy with 5 loaves of bread and a couple fish. And he probably regretted saying it as soon as it came out of his mouth, because clearly that does us no good here. But Jesus knew there was a way that the disciples could not see and did not expect. "Tell everyone to sit down," Jesus said. So they all sat down on the grassy slopes. The men alone numbered about 5,000. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and distributed them to the people. Afterward, he did the same with the fish, and they all ate as much as they wanted. After everyone was full, Jesus told his disciples, "Now gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted." So they picked up the pieces and filled 12 baskets with scraps by the people who had eaten from the 5 barley loaves. When the people saw him do this miraculous sign, they exclaimed, "Surely he is the prophet we have been expecting." Jesus miraculously feeds this massive crowd. But when I think about it, that's not all that Jesus provides. All these people shared a meal together. Can you imagine the conversations that were had, the new connections that were made, the relationships that otherwise would not have been formed if everyone had gone their separate ways for dinner that night? The blessing Jesus gives this crowd goes well beyond bread and fish. And like the disciples underestimated Jesus' ability to do the miraculous, to feed this crowd, Ted is underestimated at every turn. As you watch the show again and again, he surprises everyone around him, even the most skeptical. He does this with Rebecca slowly, but with consistency and intentionality. Every morning, he brings her that little pink box filled with biscuits, and along with it, silly and seemingly unimportant questions. We saw him ask about her first and best concert. He asked her if she's ever had something, food or a meal, that brings her back to home, sweet home, to her favorite place. He asks about her struggles. He asks about her ex-husband. He simply asks about her. Despite her resistance, despite her reluctance, he simply wants to know her. Now listen, we all need to eat. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? Every morning, along with a banana, I eat a pack of Belvita breakfast biscuits. But let's be real, they're basically cookies with frosting in the middle. Kind of like an Oreo that just got up earlier. Rebecca grows to love her morning biscuits like I like mine, even if she doesn't care for Ted's companionship when he makes his daily visit to her office. She loves those biscuits so much that she tasks her staff to no avail to find where he is buying them so she can have her delicious biscuits and remove Ted from the equation altogether. Spoiler alert, he's the one baking them. So if she wants the biscuits, she needs to meet with Ted. And so with this meal, her precious biscuits, comes belonging, friendship, and even love. It's one of the most Christ-like aspects of Ted Lasso's way. Not only the food, but the relationship that it brings. Not just the meal, but the connection the meal brings. Ted intently pursues a relationship with Rebecca, just like Jesus' never-ending pursuit of us. And like it might take us years or even our entire lives to warm up to Jesus and his way of life, Ted does start to wear Rebecca down. Eventually, she does start to open up to Ted and his offer of friendship. She starts seeing glimpses of what he offers to the team, what his intentional relationship can mean to her. And yet, she still has hired him to fail, and she is still determined to humiliate her ex-husband. Things start to change for Rebecca when she and Ted run into her ex, Rupert, and his new girlfriend. Despite Rebecca getting the team in the divorce, Rupert cannot leave well enough alone. He keeps showing up unannounced, and he keeps trying to interfere with all aspects of the team. When they have this encounter in a local pub, Ted makes a bet with Rupert over a game of darts. If Rupert wins, he gets to pick the starting lineup for the final 2 games of Richmond's season. But if Ted wins, Rupert has to stay away from the Richmond opener's box for as long as Rebecca is in charge of the team. It sure looks like Rupert is going to win that game of darts when this happens.
Mate, what do I need to win?
2 triple 20s and a bullseye.
Good luck. You know, Rupert, guys have underestimated me my entire life. And for years, I never understood why. It used to really bother me. But then one day, I was driving my little boy to school, and I saw this quote by Walt Whitman. It was painted on the wall there. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental." I like that. So I get back in my car, and I'm driving to work, and all of a sudden, it hits me. All them fellas that used to belittle me, not a single one of them were curious. You know, they thought they had everything all figured out, and so they judged everything, and they judged everyone. And I realized that they're underestimating me. Who I was had nothing to do with it. Because if they were curious, they would ask questions. You know? Questions like, have you played a lot of darts, Ted? Which I would have answered, yes, sir. Every Sunday afternoon at a sports bar with my father from age 10 till I was 16 when he passed away. Barbecue sauce. Good game, Rupert.
Be curious, not judgmental. To me, if you boil down the Lasso way to one phrase, it would be this. Especially with his approach to his friendship with Rebecca. Jesus tells us to be careful not to rush into judgment of others. Do not judge others, and you will not be judged, for you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. If we let our judgments and assumptions rule, we completely close ourselves off from having them change by asking questions and gaining a fuller picture of the story. Ted does all the things Rupert does not. Asking questions to avoid missing out on important details, avoiding and challenging assumptions, being open to understanding others as a way to build trust and connection. Emphasizing compassion and empathy are very Christ-like traits. Jesus models this for us by constantly asking questions of people, even though he already knows the answers. This approach puts Rupert in his place and shows Rebecca that Ted authentically cares for her as a friend. Without asking Rebecca questions about her divorce, Ted would not have known how significant beating Rupert in this game of darts would be. And while she's starting to soften up to Ted and is beyond grateful for what he did, she is still having a hard time letting go of her original plan for Ted, the team, and the organization to come crashing down. But no secret can stay hidden forever. Jesus tells us that in his parable of the lamb. For all that is secret will eventually be brought into the open, and everything that is concealed will be brought to the light and made known to all. And that moment comes for Rebecca. Others find out about her plan, confront her, and tell her that they will tell Ted if she does not. So she is left with a choice. Continue with her plan or confess to Ted. Let's take a look at what happens.
Ted, I lied to you. I hired you because I wanted this team to lose. I wanted you to fail. And I sabotaged you every chance I've had. It was me who hired that photographer to take the photo of you and Keely. I set up the interview with Trent Krim, hoping that he would humiliate you. And I instigated the transfer of Jamie Tart, even though you'd asked me not to. This club is all that Rupert has ever cared about, and I wanted to destroy it. To cause him as much pain and suffering as he has caused me. And I didn't care who I used or who I hurt. All you good people just trying to make a difference. Ted, I'm so sorry. If you want to quit or call the press, I'll completely understand.
I forgive you.
You what? Why?
Divorce is hard. And it doesn't matter if you're the one leaving or if you're the one who got left. It makes folks do crazy things. Hell, I'm coaching soccer, for heaven's sake, in London. I mean, that's nuts. Yeah. But this job you gave me has changed my life. It gave me the distance I needed to see what was really going on. Yeah, but you and me, we're okay. Come on, just shake this hand. My arms start again. You know, I think that if you care about someone and you got a little love in your heart, there ain't nothing you can't get through together. You know what I'm saying?
You're not just talking about us now, are you?
Maybe. Maybe not. I'm gonna go change for practice, training, practice, whatever. Who cares? I see you down here, boss. You liven up the place.
In the face of her confession, Ted does what not many could do in his position. Heck, not something I'm sure I could do if I were Ted. He forgives her. He offers her his grace. This moment would not be possible if Ted had not been intentional and relentless about pursuing a friendship with Rebecca. That hug is not possible without the softening of her heart towards Ted. Her transformation is not possible without Ted's friendship. Transformation does not happen overnight, and Ted did not win Rebecca over immediately, but he never gave up. In the same way, our vulnerability is key to Jesus' pursuit of us. He is constantly pursuing us, and he never gives up. We have to offer ourselves. We have to offer all that we have, even if it's just 5 loaves and 2 fish or a small box of biscuits. We have to share our stories, our hurts, our dreams, for God to transform them and us. Jesus wants to know us deeply, and in turn, we should want the same with Jesus. Jesus pursues us without fail, but we need to recognize and make time for him and for that relationship to bloom. Spending time with Jesus is the best way to get to know him better. It's the best way to get to know how he is moving, where he's going, and where he wants us to go. And that should spur us on to do the same with those that God has put in our lives. Our culture pretty much puts a greater emphasis on individuality over togetherness. It's actually a pretty subversive act to take time to get to know one another. It's countercultural to set aside time for ourselves to be known and to let others be known. Jesus involved himself in people's lives. He was curious. He asked questions. He joined them in their homes to see how they lived and shared meals with them. He was the originator of the Lasso way. He intentionally pursued people, and we can too. So my challenge to you this morning is this. How can you be intentional and authentic in your relationship with God and others? How can you live the Lasso way? How can you pursue relationships even with those who do not seem to want to give you their time? How can you be vulnerable and real? What assumptions and judgments can you set aside? What questions can you ask? Ted Lasso is a beautiful picture of God's pursuit of humanity. Ted made those biscuits specifically for Rebecca with love and grace and kindness. That is what he offers her. that is what Jesus offers us, and in turn what we get to offer to others.
Thank you for joining the Damascus Road podcast. Our mission is to follow Jesus together by being with God, loving everyone, transforming people, developing leaders, growing new ministries, and changing the world. You can find out more about us online at DamascusRoadTucson.com.